little stalked sets of jaws that occur on the upper side of some sea stars and sea urchins, and their function is not totally understood as far as I know, but they potentially remove particulates from settling on top of the sea star or on a sea urchin, and they could also potentially be used in feeding. But I think mostly it's to keep things from settling on the body of the animal.
Which it would need in this environment.
Yeah, with all this marine snow coming down and settling.
Sediment, yeah, just plain old sediment too.
It's the closest I can get you.
Little center?
Yep, working on it. Yep. Don't have my tilt. Put it back up a hair.
So pedicelaria, those are the modified.
Yeah, so you can see those 3 or 4 along the lower left.
They have the little white stalks on the end.
Yeah.
Oh, I see, yes.
So it's just like little simple jaws. They're really cool. Oh.
Nice view of the scale worm.
Yeah.
And the tube feet that he's walking on are nice and stout.
Yeah. Hey, when you saw the ones earlier, and did Chris get on the line and talk about these like inflated?
Oh,
no, we haven't.
He's bailing. Maybe he's gonna go underneath.
Pretty color.
Yeah. No, we haven't heard from Chris Moss.
Okay, I was just wondering if I'm sure someone. Oh, you can see a pair of the jaws on the right side, right just above the worm, is open.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, look at that.
So keep an eye on that, and you might, I don't know, might be able to see it closing those.
Oh, it looks like it's closing.
That's funny.
I guess it sensed the scale worm, and
that would be, yeah, my.
Copy that, Bridge. Thanks.
My presumption.
There's also one on the upper right, open as well.
A little more
inside. Yeah.
Copy. Thank you.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, so you really have to look close at some of these animals to see some of the more fascinating features that they have going on.
Yeah.
Mushy mushy, Chris Ma.
Hello, Chris. How are you?
Hi, Chris.
We were just talking about you. I'm sure your ears were burning.
Oh, no. In fact, I almost didn't call in because you guys are doing such a fine job of explaining this excellent echinothurid urchin and all of the various details. I only wanted to call in to add the fact that these large bulbous balloons that we're seeing on the top, Craig Young has looked at the function of these and has proposed that they function in a defensive capacity as essentially large hypodermic needles. And we had talked about how echinothurid urchins, also called pancake urchins, because of the fact that they have really flexible tusks, and the fact that when they're brought up to the surface, the water evacuates from their body coelom very quickly, and so they flatten out immediately. But they have these really elaborate defensive mechanisms that are perhaps related to their shallow water relatives. But essentially, these big balloons around these spines function, it's thought, as hypodermic needles. And so, if we were to have collected one of these and brought them up, whoever would be unfortunate enough to deal with them would unlikely get nailed by one of these, or potentially could be nailed by one of these spines. And from what I'm told, there's a very unpleasant tingling sensation that sets in afterwards, which is related to how large the animals are, based on anecdotal evidence that I'm given. But there are shallow water fire urchins called in the genus, which I'm forgetting now, but they are renowned for being extremely venomous, and getting stung by one is not considered a pleasant experience. But these have, this particular one, Formosoma, I believe that's Formosoma placenta, are kind of the classic echinothurid for this area, and Stephanie did just a wonderful job explaining. I think that was Stephanie, wasn't it?
Yep.
Certainly was not this geologist.
There's an eel up in the water.
Okay, well, I wasn't sure.
No, it was
if
definitely
perhaps someone else was there as well. Well, I have a PhD in geology, so being a geologist is not necessarily the only, is not always an excuse. But these are just, there's all sorts of interesting little stories that relate to these. Anything from the funny little tube feet they use, and spines they use to walk around, to these elaborate, like big, puffy, like hypodermic needle-like spines, to, the fact that these were known primarily from fossils before they were discovered alive. And so there are lots of interesting details. These are considered sort of a basal group in the grander sea urchin, phylogeny of life, the tree of life for sea urchin. So they're kind of an interesting group of animals for any number of reasons. And while I'm here, I also would like to verify that, in fact, yes, the sea stars that you're seeing with the multiple arms are Solaster. I'm not sure which one exactly yet.
Great.
And if I'm not mistaken, those ophiuroids are what used to be called Ophiumuseum. The genus has undergone a recent revision, and so there's some new name that it has now, Ophiomusa or something like that. But the large shields that are present on the base of the arms are very distinctive, and watching them is always a delight, especially when you're watching them feed on a big cluster of whatever it was they were feeding on. So anyway, I see that you've advanced onto the midwater and are looking at comb jellies, so I'll let Stephanie continue and call back when there's something suitably benthic for me to deal with.
Great, Chris. We look forward to hearing from you again as the dive goes on.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
I'm happy to hear that my blog is being put to such good use.
I've got it pulled up.
Have a good day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, Chris.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, so here we've got another nice low-bait ctenophore. Again, it's kind of upside down, but in the midwater orientation doesn't seem to be that important because you're in a three-dimensional habitat. What I want to point out about this one is you could see it moving a little bit earlier. The red animal in the middle is actually an amphipod, and in a lot of ctenophores and then medusoid jellies, there's a lot of times we find amphipod commensals or associates that are living their lives on these gelatinous organisms.
Right.
And a lot of times a particular species of medusa or particular species of ctenophore has a sort of matching, if you will, particular species of amphipod. So that one looked like, I don't know how to identify the ctenophore, unfortunately, but I'm pretty sure that the amphipod is in the genus Cyna. So, and I can tell that because they have two very large antennae. That's sort of one of the telltale features of that. It's a Hyperiid amphipod.
And Stephanie, can you just mention about the bioluminescence from the beating of those cilia?
Actually, we're not seeing the bioluminescence. We're just seeing
100 meters, so we've now gone
the light
refracting
off of them. And yes, while the animals are bioluminescent, it's not related to those combs. It's it would different in different species, but usually it's sort of, if you see them in the dark and you touch them, a lot of the species have sort of a wave of a moving wave of a net of bioluminescence across the body, and that's thought to be a defensive behavior against potential predators. Yeah, remember, without us being here, everything is in the dark because we're at, what are we at, 1,592 meters. So there's no light down here whatsoever other than what the animals are producing themselves. Some animals are producing light or bioluminescence as a defense to potentially startle a predator. Others are using light to attract potential prey, like anglerfish. But yeah,
When you do the midwater dives, do you ever turn off the lights just to see the bioluminescence? I've done that in the submersible. It's really, it's
Dr.
remarkable. I don't know if the video can pick it up, but
that's the thing.
That
so one of the groups at Mbari has started to do that, but when they turn off the lights, they're using a different camera other than the main camera. That's doesn't have necessarily the nicest HD quality like the cameras that we're looking at here, but it's got really, really low light sensitivity. But yeah, you're right. And when you use a manned submersible and you turn off the lights, your eyes are much more sensitive, and you have to use a special camera that is as sensitive or
another
more.
move, please. 30 meters, bearing 300, speed .2.
So we're just looking at a nice bright red mysid shrimp.
Picked up again.
It has picked up?
No, it
dropped off.
That was just me that felt like it was going all over the place.
France referred to it, in quotes, as an opossum shrimp.
Yeah, because they brood their young, the eggs in a little kind of pouch on the underside.
Black dot floating across possible jelly.
We're going to go for done here. See if there's anything unique to this one. Gastropod, right?
Yeah. Trying to figure out what it's on.
Looks like another piece of seagrass coming off on the left. Is that
maybe that? Okay.
on it?
Yeah, that's what Pilot was saying. It's a gastropod, and I was trying to figure out what the gastropod was on, but I think you're right. A piece of seagrass.
Yeah, we saw another one earlier too.
Oh, okay.
And it looks like some kind of polychaete tube behind it.
And a pteropod shell, a sediment. Just
lots of them. I knew you'd say that. Was waiting for that.
But yeah, just to reiterate what I was saying before, and I'm sure Leslie and Cheryl have talked about, is a lot of the food available to the animals living down here on the sea floor comes from surface waters, and most of the time it's in conspicuous form of small particulates attached to sediment or on its own. But in that case, you saw this blade of seagrass that somehow made it all the way down to the seafloor at 1,500 plus meters.
And brittle stars.
Then the animals will come crawling along to find that and consume it.
Science, you guys notice, like Pilot just pointed out, the brittle stars have significantly reduced suddenly.
Yeah, the pilots were noticing that the brittle starfish that we've been seeing all over the bottom have now kind of disappeared here. So we saw one by that clump of something, and now we don't see any more. Maybe a tripod fish.
Yeah, maybe we can take a quick zoom on that, because we haven't done that in a bit.
Go ahead, video.
Laser's clear. Partial.
It's okay. That's all right. Beautiful tripod fish.
Yeah.
The one we saw earlier might have been Bathopteris phoenix. Don't know if this is the same one.
That's why we're getting a zoom in on it. So either now or sometime in the future, someone can take a look and figure out what species it is based on the particular diagnostic features of this group.
And Andrew Quattrini just confirmed that.
Okay, so this is also Bathopteris phoenix.
Yeah.
And they were saying something, I think there was some talk maybe on the chat room the other day about a notch right before the anal, or the tail. that is diagnostic in this group? Do you remember that? Or am
Oh
I thinking?
yeah, you can see it there.
Bottom right.
Yeah, and so
at the base of the caudal fin.
So that's present in some group or in some species and not, or something.
Yep, Andrea confirmed that the subcaudal notch is diagnostic.
Subcaudal notch. Okay. Well, I didn't remember what it was called, a subcaudal notch, but now I will. So yeah, we've seen a lot of these tripod fish today, I think. They have those very large fin rays to make their footprint larger so they can detect potential food coming by, carried by the currents, or anything walking around on the sediment, like crustaceans or something like that. I have a hard time believing that they would eat brittle stars, even though that at least was one of the more numerous options earlier on.
This is a bit more barren here.
Yeah. There's a few scattered, but yeah, nowhere. And I've seen that in other places, and I don't know if it indicates that there's less material falling and landing on this particular part of the seafloor versus where we were seeing a lot of brittle stars, but distance-wise, they're not that far away.
And here's a few
I'm sure
more
someone
brittle
knows.
stars coming in, but
That pink object on the right.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of these.
Okay.
and here's another one, the Solaster
Oh,
sea stars.
yeah.
We haven't got a good close-up of the shrimp yet, so
Okay.
go ahead.
Yeah, this is probably another mysid. So you can see it
He's sitting idle. Nothing
using
to
its
pirouette
swimming
around.
legs, even though it's staying put, getting carried by the water.
Very graceful.
Okay, Nav, I think we might be ready for another move if that one's done.
Sure.
So you see a lot of organisms living in the deep water column like this that are
Bridge,
this
RV nav.
nice red color.
Another move, please.
And the reason for that is
30
that,
meters, bearing 300, speed
as we said, it's
2.
totally dark down here, but
Copy.
red is one of the first light wavelengths to go, so many of the animals
He was
are
pretty
red
low rolling.
colored,
Couldn't do much with them.
so that in the absence of red light, they actually
Yeah, but
appear
that was pretty
black.
impressive.
So that is a good form of camouflage that we see in many different groups of animals that inhabit the deep water column. The other option is to be, or one of the other main options is to be completely transparent, which is difficult for some of the animal groups. So of course a lot of ctenophores, or most ctenophores and most medusa jellies, are either transparent or a combination of red and transparent. But as a crustacean, you have a hard time having all of your tissues be completely transparent. So you go for the red option.
Got some disturbance on the right.
Is this the halosaurs or?
Go ahead on fish.
No, I don't think so. It is
Oh,
a
the
halosaur?
halosaurs. Oh, okay.
Okay,
Let's get his
maybe
head.
it is.
Go ahead. Gonna try to get closer to him more in the light.
Try to get the top of his head if you can.
Oh yeah.
It's being very cooperative and letting us get a good look at him or her.
Yep, and Amanda Demopoulos agreed that it's a halosaur.
This group is one that I'm
Can I go
not
up the
familiar
length?
with seeing a lot of, where I've done much of my work in off the coast of California. At least they're not common, as they seem to be here.
Mm-hmm. If we're able to get one more zoom on the head region, that would be wonderful.
Think you can spin around its left and get the front on?
I'm trying. I'm fighting some mud.
Look, they have a
He's
line
also
of
turning.
really large scales on the ventral
Just
side.
follow him around.
Laser's clear.
Laser's off.
I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not familiar with this group of fish at all, so I don't know if that's something they all have.
He's not giving it to us, Roland.
That's pretty good there, though.
Wow, beautiful.
Oh, I hit my toe. Can't do anymore.
That was great, though. Thanks. Oh.
And he's out of there.
All right, heading back up slope. See if I can find that sort of little, look like harder up substrate. Yeah, here it is. So it looks like our way is maybe changing a little bit.
Copy that. There's just another minute or two left in that move, so
Yeah.
can adjust from there.
Want to take a zoom to the hard structure?
Yeah, let's go here.
Nice little red shrimp on the seafloor there. And quite a large burrow.
Mm-hmm.
Lined by hydroids and tube worms.
And I guess this mud is a little more compacted.
Yeah, right there.
That it stays in
The
place
staying
better.
put enough to have a burrow of some
if I can.
some kind.
Show that piece that dropped off.
Nice tube anemone.
I'm just going to go along the face here.
And Andrea, going back to the holosaur, said that some species have scales that are bigger than others, but she's pretty sure this one is
260 or something.
Halosauropsis.
Halosauropsis micro.
Yeah, we probably just kind of skirted along the edge. We're on this side of the ridge now.
With the climate?
So we
Sure.
What?
bring us
Sure,
back
sure,
over the
sure.
side.
Sure.
Yeah, let's come on.
So we did see there was a squat lobster sticking out of one of those burrows. It looks like quite a large crab in the distance.
Oh yeah. Wonder if this is another lithodid crab.
Are we almost done with that move?
Yeah, but
That fish coming at him.
another couple meters, I think.
Okay.
There it is.
All right. So I'm looking
There it
at
is.
you at 90 degrees, but hopefully I won't swing that much, pilot.
He's eating something.
Yeah.
Picking stuff
Finding
off the
something
ground.
yummy in the sediments here.
Brittle? They eat brittle
Oh.
stars?
I don't know. That's a great question. It looks like he's
Go ahead.
yeah.
Laser's clear.
Oh yeah, he was just eating
don't-
the arm of a brittle star.
Was it really?
Yeah, it just fell out of its.
Yeah, I saw that, but I
Mouth parts.
couldn't tell it. It was.
Coming
Either
up.
that or he decided against it. But
I guess
Yeah, you
that
could
is
turn
burrow.
your
That's
head
not
to
very
port
spiny
keep
burrow.
them in
Oh,
view, because I think we're going to have to turn to port anyway.
Copy that.
Those
Turning
are
back.
Yeah,
definitely
here
brittle
he
star.
goes.
Oh, sorry, video.
yeah.
Oh, he pulled one arm off. There he goes. Ah, so that's why it eats
Nice.
them. Oh, he's got quite a food stock.
Yeah.
He's set for the winter.
Still up.
Well, he's probably got to eat a lot to get enough nutrition out of a brittle star.
Yeah, especially those legs. It just looks like there's hardly any tissue on them.
He spits it out every time.
Yeah, he's not so into it. Well, indecisive.
You can see all of his 5 pairs
I
of mouth
know,
parts.
it's amazing.
Is this a known behavior that they're predatory on brittle stars?
I don't think that this has been commonly observed of these guys eating brittle stars.
It makes sense given the abundance of brittle stars down here, and you got to eat something to get that large.
Mm-hmm.
Did we have the lasers on this? I don't.
We did when we first came in. When,
okay.
Once video's clear, we can put them on again.
You know, if we had them on before, I just couldn't remember.
If we have time to.
We have some time, yep. See if he's going to go for one more.
Maybe they just pull off the legs of the, or arms of the brittle star and eat the center, because that's where the main amount of the goods would be.
Yeah.
It does look like the disc is gone.
This guy never didn't really get to the center, or maybe he did before.
Yeah, maybe we missed that part, and he was just getting a little bit off the arms after eating the central disc.
Yeah, so we've been wondering all dive what might be eating those brittle stars. Then
may have found the answer.
At least one of the predators of brittle stars.
Although it does also look like he's picking up just other bits in the sediment, like that.
He might have a very wide variety of things that he eats. You have to be opportunistic in times like this.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, he's scratching an itch. Who knew that crab exoskeletons got itches?
Is he trying to feel if there's one there? How are we doing, Fernando?
I think
You're up ahead, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, the ship stopped and mostly settled out.
Yep.
By now.
Looks like he's off path.
Okay. Yep. Looks like we can carry on.
So for folks on shore, we're having a pilot change here.
Of course, it is also headed for a
So we'll
batch.
continue to watch this lithoted crab, see what he's going to eat next. Ooh, and is that a little eel pout, maybe?
Could be an eel pout, yeah. A different one than more of a midwater or benthopelagic eel pout. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you want to hit the still cam on, Fernando?
Do you want the lights on? Okay, lights coming on.
You can bring still cam up as well.
Oh.
There you go, Dan. There's your still cam.
Copy, Rich, thanks.
So we're just getting a few with still cam here for a second video, and then I think we can leave them be.
Oh.
Oh.
That's awesome.
Oh my goodness.
Just grabbed a whole brittle star.
He's not wasting any time with this one.
Let's go video.
Can you get to the front?
No, I can't. That's uphill. Fortunately, this is our best view. I just want to see
now
if
we'll
it
see which
takes
party
the arm
likes
off.
the best.
Tilting down.
Okay, ripping off the legs.
This is not a good view.
Okay, just come wide a little.
Full wide.
So we're trying to get a better view and angle on this lithoted crab to see how he's consuming this brittle star.
Go back in.
Tilt.
That's all I got.
Can turn off the still cam, Fernando.
Sure.
Just like rapidly consuming
Co-pilot,
the
can you take
brittle
camera,
star
please?
arms.
Sure.
Tilt up just a little bit, nice and gently.
Okay, tilting up slowly.
Hasn't gone for the central disc yet.
It's all you, video.
Let me know what you want, video.
Yeah, that's good.
Copy.
So it looks like I'm totally wrong about them preferring the central disc unless it's saving the best for last. I don't know.
Levi, if you want to reach over and hit joystick, you can take over. Or joy lock.
He's opening that claw up pretty wide like he's about to crack it.
So while we're looking at this guy, we had a question about what the modified fifth leg does in some of these anamurine crabs. And of course in hermit crabs we know that that's what they use to hold their shell on. But in lithodid crabs like this one, that fifth leg is actually a cleaner leg. And so they clean their gills with that fifth appendage. And lithodid crabs can actually lift up their carapace to get that cleaner leg up towards the gills, which are more forward in the animal. That's really amazing. No, this guy has just been munching for a long time.
Yeah.
Michael Vecchione joked that he's snacking on the arms kind of like hot wings. Yeah, Bob Carney has noted that the silt sediment on the carapace of this crab might mean that he has just been in a burrow.
Yeah, so one of those large burrows we were seeing a few meters back might be.
Let's see if he eats the central
I
disc.
know.
No, and Tom Hansknecht said that they don't actually eat the arms, but they're looking for protozoans, sessile organisms on them.
Oh, okay.
Huh.
Yeah, because they look like they're doing a lot of processing, turning the arms over, but then they seem like they drops them.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Slight tilt down to the central disc.
This poor brittle star is having a very bad day.
Well, it could regrow the arms as long as he doesn't eat the central disc.
Right.
It might take a while, but...
And it's interesting that we didn't really see many of these guys without all of their arms. So I wonder if that bare part that we just went over that didn't have any bristle.
That's his home range.
Stars yeah, he's cleaned them all out, maybe.
Maybe.
So he crushed it.
Oh, there we go.
This might not be a good day for this brittle star.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. The ultimate demise of this particular brittle star.
So you can see the setae on those mouth parts, the golden.
Let's go up to the mouth.
Kind of bristles, and he's definitely just grooming this.
Combing protozoans.
Yeah, this is an amazing opportunity to use this great zoom on this camera to actually see predation happening in the deep sea. You know, down here at over 1,500 meters. We just don't, and we have such short bottom time in places like this. It's amazing to be able to watch feeding behavior and predation. It's a rare opportunity.
Yeah, it's nice that this crab doesn't seem bothered by our presence, so he or she is just going about its business. As if nothing out of the ordinary is happening.
Looks like he just
Did he just shove the central disc in there?
No, I think it was a scoop of sediment.
Oh, okay.
Did somebody just join us on the line?
Hey, this is Chris Ma.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Sorry that this brittle star is getting annihilated.
Yes, it's brilliant footage, though.
It really
I'm really
is.
enjoying. It's not great for the brittle star, but it is very interesting biology. I thought I would just chime in and say that just from a physical texture standpoint, that disc is really thick. I mean, it's like a little sort of
disc.
Yeah.
It's like a really thick coin, you know. I mean, in terms of its texture and so forth. So it's possible that it really isn't, the bonanza of tissue that it might seem to be. There's also the possibility that that the arms, however light the tissue might be, remember that echinoderms are covered with skin. So it's possible that the crab is getting its nutrition off of, the sort of organic material that is covering, the epithelium, that is basically the epithelium of the animal. And so it literally might be feeding on them like chicken wings, as Mike suggested, and that there just isn't enough nutrition on the disc to make it worthwhile, to physically bite into it, because the mouth parts on something like this crab look like they're sort of narrower, I guess, than like a large, they're not like a Tyrannosaurus Rex where there's like a big gaping jaw type of structure. So the physicality of it might be very different.
Right.
But I'm still watching. We're obviously still going to see. It looks like the disc is slowly coming apart. So maybe it does just consume all of it.
And in that central disc would be all of the stomach and some types of glands and potentially even the gonads, right? So there could be some good nutritious soft parts in there.
Yeah,
if he decides
I agree.
To go through all that trouble.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if maybe a lot of what they do might be sort of just cheap nutrition, is just going after the arms rather than engulfing the entire animal. Like it's maybe this might be exceptional for all we know. That said, it could be typical. It's hard to say, but.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw, Chris, before we found the crab, the brittle starfish were absent from the seafloor, and then we came upon the crab. Do you think that that has been like his food source, and he's basically decimated those in his area?
It would be hard to say because, I mean, typically predators don't always wipe out everything that they eat.
Wow.
And
are you watching this with the disc?
What?
He now just picked up the disc. You probably will see it in a few seconds because of the delay.
Okay.
But he's shoving the whole disc in between his mouth parts now.
Oh wow. Okay, so so that idea that I had earlier, maybe not so much.
Well, I don't know. We still don't know what he's going to do with it, but he definitely has a good hold of it.
I could certainly see that the crab might be following where the large aggregations of those brittle stars were showing up. You know, I don't know if they would necessarily have just like wiped out everything there and moved on. I get the impression that the distribution of an abundance is more related to what sort of shows up there from larval distribution and all that sort of thing. The other thing is that there's more than one critter that feeds on those brittle stars because there are gut content analyses of some of the Solaster species where they found brittle star pieces in the gut, and it's always people are always cautious about attributing things like that to predation, you know, because of course they could just be detritivores and have been feeding on the sediment or whatnot. But sun stars, those Solaster species, could also be feeding on brittle stars. I mean, then the arms are probably they seem more opportunistically like a food source than the disc. So maybe that's why you see such high rates of sublethal predation in these. But this is definitely a novel observation. I'm sure people will be relishing the video for for quite a while.
The number of appendages that are being used for this process, and they all have their own functions. It's really fascinating.
I've never seen this on any crab this up close and personal, even shallow water crabs. I mean,
it's like he's brushing off the area.
Chris, have you ever known crabs to be predators like this of the brittle stars?
Not brittle stars so much, but I know that crabs will feed on the papula on sea stars. You know, and they'll basically descend on them and pluck off their arms or pluck off all of the soft tissue, and just sit there and just pick essentially small tasty bits off of them for a while.
He's got some of the insides, I think. I think he's broken away the outer portion of the shells.
Yeah, it does look like he's eating parts of the inside now.
Oh, he lost it. He's spitting it out.
Maybe he just spits out the calcareous part. Or not calcareous.
Wow. Well, I don't think anybody has ever observed a deep-sea brittle star being fed upon to this level.
I'd be surprised.
It's amazing. It's quite a complex process he has going on there.
My gosh.
Wow, that's quite a strong animal. I mean, when you consider how tough that disc is, that's quite a strong set of jaw pieces.
It's very leathery.
Upper two orange parts are just piercing into the shell material.
He definitely takes out some parts that he wants and then spits others back out.
Is he intentionally breaking it and then?
I think so, with those orange pincers at the top.
Wow.
I'm glad he doesn't mind us watching. I can hardly wait to hear the music that our amazing video team puts to this little clip.
I was thinking the same thing. We had crab legs for dinner on the ship, and those are relatives of these crabs, so and they were delicious.
Yeah, well, definitely is better eaten than brittle star leg.
Yeah, let's not have that on the menu, please.
If you do, you can grow up big and strong like he did.
Yeah.
That's true.
We'll have to molt.
Well, you certainly develop bigger, more calcareous spines. I wonder if that's actually what they like the brittle stars for, is maybe they somehow...
the calcium carbonate?
Can uptake the calcium carbonate.
From my perspective, sitting here, it seems like he's sort of getting at the interior soft. You see it falling away from that leg and then throwing away the outer exterior.
Yeah, it does look like he's very, very picky about what he's taking. And
he's filleting the brittle star.
Well, that is... Yeah, okay, well, that dismisses a whole bunch of different hypotheses. That's good to know.
Well, at one point, he ran an entire arm through all of these different appendages, mouth parts, and like, I don't know, like a cleaning off the stalk.
And you can see all those setae on the mandibles and... And you can also see those kind of holes underneath his eyes. And Tom Hansknecht reminded us that those are gill bailers. So that's moving water through the gills.
And I wasn't here when you zoomed in on the crab. About how big is he, or did we not have the lasers on yet?
I don't remember.
Yeah, we had the lasers, but I don't remember the details. I'd say about 20, 25.
Yeah, I was going to think about 20 or 25 centimeters.
Yeah, we can get lasers again when we zoom out.
Yeah, he's really going to town on that.
Well, every little feast in the deep sea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this one's going to be able to regrow its legs. Oh my goodness.
We're very fortunate that the ROV can remain in this position for so long. We often have to move on, but the ship's, I guess it's able to maintain its position right now in the Gulf Stream.
Tom Hansknecht said that gill bailer, the scientific name is the Scathignite.
And he also noted that the mandibles did not work until it got to the body disc.
Yeah, the big ones.
All right, watch. Did you want to continue watching this, or did you want to move on?
Those mandibles to pierce and crush the body plate.
Well, again, I emphasize to the people listening, those discs are really tough. I mean, they're you know, they have the consistency of a light stone. So this thing its mandibles and its mouth parts are doing a pretty amazing job.
All right, video, I want to zoom out, and then I'll try to get lasers on it.
Wow, it's like a bunch of different pieces now. I mean, it's really just tearing that thing up. Huh.
Yeah, so there is our 10-centimeter measuring tool.
No, this is a pretty big crab. Say 40, at least, more than that, maybe 50 centimeters across if you count from the long legs on either side. But the region we were looking at is more like 10 centimeters across.
keep moving here.
What's the bearing of our move now?
It's funny to me that the other brittle stars surrounding it aren't running away from this guy. But I guess they know it'll take him a while to consume one, and maybe he'll just move on.
Probably their sensors aren't
but that's trying to take us over
honed
to
for
the
that type
side,
of
so we may
detection.
adjust that based on sonar. Can you unlatch me a video? Yeah. So what are you thinking for the next move?
What do you have right now? 140.
Yeah, but I just turned to look at him.
I would bet 90.
It's actually a really good question.
Port. Sorry, starboard.
Because, I mean, when you have, like, for example, sea stars or other kinds of predators of numerous other echinoderms,
let's see when you start lining up again.
Usually they'll pick up the chemotactic cues right away. Other sea stars, other brittle stars can smell sea stars coming. And for whatever reason,
more of these guys.
I mean, I don't know if the brittle stars in this area have all left or if they're all just still sitting there. But if they haven't moved away, that would
my God, the sea is full
suggest
of stars.
a couple of ideas. But it's still interesting because there are a lot of echinoderms, at least in shallow habitats, that move away when potential predators, or at least well-known predators, are nearby. Yeah, that ophiuroid's still there. Huh.
Chris, we're about to zoom in on another sea star. It'll be a little delayed for you. We're coming back to the one that we passed. So hang on for a minute. We'll need your expertise.
Frame it up video.
And I'm going to make a guess based on what we've learned before, a Henricia, but
drifting away.
Really a guess.
Well, you've already gotten a general idea of what the shape was like, so it sounds intriguing.
And so while we're waiting for Chris to see the sea star come into view on his feed, I'm going to answer a question. Joe Hoyt has a large group of folks in the auditorium at his facility, and one of the questions was, what is the policy on specimen collection and how is it done? And we haven't made any collections today, but the basic policy is that we have, we're not just collecting for the sake of collecting. We want to only make collections where we need information to make a positive identification, or if it's a novel species, or if it is something that we can use in our connectivity studies where we are trying to learn the connections using DNA information among the different organisms across this region.
Still drifting back.
So we don't take very many collections. We are limited by the number of bio boxes that we have on board the ship. We don't want to contaminate one sample by putting it in to another bio box, and we have 4 of those bio boxes.
Upper right, lower
we
right.
also have 2 containers for rock samples, so if we can fit a lot of rocks into those, we might be able to do that, but we don't take too many collections of rocks either because they also have associated organisms living on them, so we wouldn't necessarily put 2 rocks in the same box because one associate might jump from one box to the other, one rock to the other. So we're very careful in our collection choices because in a 6 to 8 hour or 7 hour cruise and dive, we don't want to load up all of our collection areas too quickly. And we use the manipulator arms, which you haven't had a chance to see yet today, that have claws, and one in particular is used for most of the collections. And our pilots are amazingly skilled at manipulating these arms and the claws and picking them up carefully, sometimes snipping off ends of coral or sponge species, and then carefully putting them in the box, which then can close and seal it so it doesn't leave the box from turbulence.
Maybe start with like 20
and then
meters.
the other choice of sample device is a scoop. and we have used that to get underneath some of these organisms that are somewhat embedded in the sediment, and we've also used it as a sediment collection device.
We want to go
so
on average of 3,
we have
2,
left
4.
our view of the sea star, but Chris has now had a chance to look at it. I hope he's still on the line. I might have lost him.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good.
I was just waiting for you to
yeah, thanks. I just heard somebody come on or go off.
Oh, no, that's fine.
So what's your
is actually, I'm sorry, were you still saying?
No, go right ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so this is what's called, this is in the genus Neomorphaster. This is actually a very ancient member of the forcipulates. So forcipulates are sea stars like you might, that are members of the same group that you might recognize from in an intertidal zone if you're on the Atlantic or on the Pacific Western coast. So if you're on the West Coast, something like Pisaster, or if you're on the West Coast, something like Asterias. And this is a member of another family called the Psychasteridae, which is part of that same broad group, but much older. Most of the members of this family of sea stars actually occur only in the southern hemisphere, and there is a couple of them that get into the northern hemisphere.
See what's in there,
and we're fortunate to have 1 or 2 species that occur off of the North Atlantic coast. Typically, I see these in the North Atlantic canyons when Okeanos is farther up the coast. I think we're at the southern end, at the southern range of this particular one. I'll have to look up the species, but I think it's like Neomorphaster forcipatus or something like that. And there are Cretaceous fossils of this kind of sea star that occur in California and other places in the northern hemisphere. So these are interesting animals from a historical viewpoint, because at one point there's evidence that they were much more widely occurring. Today, they occur, like I said, in the southern hemisphere, in the Antarctic, and in the northern hemisphere in the deep sea. So they're kind of a very strange older group of sea stars. Not a lot's known about them, but I think they're probably detritivores or predators or something like that. So hopefully we'll get to see more of their biology as the dive continues. But we've seen sometimes they cover the bottom of the canyons in the North Atlantic in droves. I mean, there's hundreds of them. So
yeah, you could call.
They're intriguing.
Very interesting. And one of the questions from an audience that is viewing from the North Carolina Aquarium is, how fast can a sea star typically move, and what is its range? And I assume they mean by range how far it can go.
20 meters at 240,
range. And I'm sure that varies dramatically.
And one that I'm not sure I can answer, because I don't know if anyone's ever taken the time to sort of see how far they leave. So sea stars don't move very quickly, or if they do so very steadily at their own rate. So like some shallow water sea stars actually have a home range. They don't go very far. And so, and there's some evidence that shallow water sea stars actually will return to their home range, if displaced. What sea stars in the deep sea do is an entirely another question. They don't move very quickly. They move, probably, if at all, they move probably, a couple of, like the one that we just saw doesn't probably move very much at all, but some of the shallow water ones can move quite quickly, and you can see them, move a couple of centimeters per second.
Chris, can you comment on the leg growing back?
Sorry?
Can you comment on the leg growing back?
I don't know. I didn't hear anyone. But I will point out...
Was there also a question about how much the legs grow back?
I didn't hear that, but I will point out that might be coming into your view now, Chris, that we have a 4.5-armed sea star. You can clearly see that it lost one of its limbs almost entirely and is regenerating that arm. So it's a great example of that.
Well, that might be as a result of predation by any number of things, anything from a crab to even that stolaster. those Solaster sea stars actually prey on other echinoderms, including other sea stars, and sometimes they're not entirely successful. But this one looks like it's, so this is another neomorphaster, and it looks like this one might just, let's see. Yeah, it's regrowing one.